Hi, I'm Gemma Lauren Krebs, author of the Locked series, here to read you another chapter of Nothing Lost, book 1 of the Locked series, now available on Amazon.com. You can follow me at Gemma Lauren Krebs and at the Locked series. So let's get going with chapter 8. Chapter 8, LOVESTRUCK. The time I had with Jevin flew by. Tomorrow was the day my father would evaluate what he'd learned. It was a difficult task trying to squeeze 10 years of knowledge into 2 weeks. Today Jevin and I would go to the upper gardens and I'd check how he looked after those plants. Though there were special varieties in the true garden, their care was essentially the same. We had planned to meditate in Jevin's room before we went to the gardens. I raised a fist to knock on his door, but halted when I heard someone crying. A girl. Thinking I might have been mistaken, I pressed an ear to the door. The crying quieted, and I realized I shouldn't be listening like this. Instead, I knocked. Low voices spoke for a moment. Then Jevin opened the door, but not widely. "Good morning, Ch.8," he said. "Where are we meeting today?" Oh. Clearly he'd forgotten the plans we made the day before. It seemed he wasn't going to let me into his room. "I was going to eat breakfast. Then I thought we would train at the upper gardens. We'll test your skills in plant care before going to my father tomorrow." Jevin nodded once. "Then I'll meet you at the upper garden in, half an hour? Will that work?" "Sure," I said, unsure, trying to slyly look past Jevin into his room. Before I could see anything, though, he had shut the door. A part of me wanted to wait down the hall and see if anyone exited his room when he did, but I decided to simply ask him about the crying girl later. I picked at the food on my plate, mashing the rubble tubers with the back of my spoon. Instead of eating, I was thinking about Jevin. He'd seemed more distant, diving deeply into his study and training. Though I was the one teaching him, he was always lost in thought, miles away. And now, besides that, it appeared he was keeping something from me. I left the dining hall, deciding to meditate in the upper garden before Jevin arrived. The sun had risen not long ago and was making many of the flowers glow softly. I sat, staring at a coral bloom, the orange red of it lit like fire in the morning light, when I heard footsteps behind me. I looked around, expecting to see Jevin. However, it was Princess Niren. The few times I had seen her recently, she'd turned and avoided me, yet now she approached defiantly. I rose and bowed. "Princess?" Her hair was pulled back into a braid, though some loose hairs were broken from it. "Why did you do it?" she said, nearly shaking with anger. I hadn't had a chance to apologize to her, and she clearly needed one. "I'm sorry if I hurt you in some way, Princess. Why did you do it?" She folded her arms, clutching at herself. It seemed she was only after a straightforward answer. I braced myself and did my best. "I didn't think it mattered if I was a boy or a girl. I just did what I wanted to do and dressed in a way that made me comfortable. I'm sorry to have hurt you. I'm not sure what I did wrong, but..." The impact and burning on my cheek came before I realized what had happened. Then Niren was gone. "Ow!" I whispered, feeling a tear sting the edge of my eye. I'd been hit many times before, but only as a training exercise. There had never really been any malice in it. There was in Princess Niren's slap, though. Perhaps it would do some good, provide some closure for her for whatever reason she was suffering. We had been friendly before, not best friends, nothing like what I had with Jevin, but we'd gotten along well. I doubted we could go back to that. You realize she was in love with you, right? I turned around to see Jevin. Jev, what he had said reached me. What? When she thought you were a boy, she was in love with you. He stood with his arms crossed. Love? What? I looked away. How could that be? Was it true? I don't think so. Jevin reached out a hand to graze my cheek. Pain still pulsed across my skin. He must have seen Niren slap me. Pulling back his hand, he said, She told me, Shay. She was in my room this morning. I think she wanted to talk with you without really talking to you. She knows how close we are. I dropped my hands to my sides. She'll need time to get over it. It was a huge shock, and, when you were a boy, he looked side to side, perhaps unsure that was the right way to phrase it. He sighed. There was little chance that the two of you would have been matched anyway. I think she still held out hope, though. You know her matching ceremony will be in several weeks, right? I did know that. Niren had brought it up a lot when we were last talking. Now I knew why. Jevin continued. She knew there was only a slight chance, and when she went to your room and found you, she was going to tell you how she felt. Jevin's eyes met mine, glowing silver in the early sunlight. She's quite shaken, more than anyone else, I believe. I tore my eyes away, sitting down and rubbing my face. I didn't know. Of course you didn't. He sat next to me. You wouldn't have considered it. I didn't want to speak of this anymore. My chest was starting to tighten. I didn't like thinking of romance. I had never felt close enough to anyone to think in that way. I looked up to Jevin. I'm sorry you had to deal with it, I said. Thank you for your help. I shook my head, trying to force myself into the mindset to continue Jevin's training. We should do a meditation, I said. Are you okay? Jevin stayed where he was. I'm fine. We need to meditate. I didn't want to talk. Jevin was the person I was closest to, no question, but I found myself resistant to discuss it even with him. Shame flooded my body. Close your eyes. Jevin's eyes didn't close, but found mine once again, so I closed my own and started speaking, beginning the meditation. We didn't talk of Niren again. After meditating, I felt better, well, at least calmer, and all I had to do was follow Jevin around as he explained care for each plant to me. He did well enough that I wasn't too worried to bring him before my father tomorrow. At the end of the day, Jevin and I parted ways, perhaps more tensely than usual. I dropped him off at his room to study. I was proud of Jevin. I thought my father would approve of how I'd taught him. When I lay down in the darkness, though, Niren's face rose in my thoughts. I felt terrible for having led her on, but I'd never shown particular interest in her. She had allowed herself to see me as a man and a potential partner. I'd only seen her as a friend. I rolled over, letting out a groan. I had no idea what to do. Perhaps if I gave her time to get over it, things could be all right again. She would have her matching ceremony soon and an actual partner to return her feelings. It would be all right. So that was Chapter 8. Hope you guys are all doing well. See you later. Bye.